You ever pour yourself a nice glass of wine, take that first sip, and something's just not right? Yeah, it's not you, it's not your imagination. There is a secret, invisible world teeming with life inside every single bottle. So let's dive into this hidden ecosystem. I mean, look at this. It's what we all want, right? A perfect pour, that beautiful deep color. It promises a great experience. But what you can't see is that on a microscopic level, there is a war going on in there. A battle between microorganisms that will either make or totally break the wine you're about to drink.
And that's really the heart of it all. You have to remember, wine isn't just some inert liquid. It's not just grape juice and alcohol. No, it's a living, breathing, constantly changing microbial environment. And, sometimes things go sideways.
So let's play detective for a bit. Our crime scene? A faulty bottle of wine. And our job is to figure out who's responsible. Let's meet the usual suspects. These are wine's most unwanted microbial guests. Now, hold on, not all microbes are the bad guys here. In fact, we absolutely need the good ones, like this yeast, Saccharomyces, to work its magic during fermentation, turning sugar into alcohol. But that's not who we're after today. Our investigation is focused squarely on the other team, the spoilage microbes that can hijack a wine and just completely ruin it.
Any good detective knows you start with the physical evidence. So what can a faulty wine show us? What are the clues you can spot with your own eyes before you've even taken a sip?
Okay, let's open up the evidence file. First up, if you ever see a weird, cloudy film on the surface, some people call them flowers, our number one suspect is a group called film yeasts. Then there's this second clue, and this one is really weird, ropiness. It's when the wine literally looks oily and pours in thick, kind of thread-like streams. Yikes. That's the handiwork of certain lactic acid bacteria. Definitely not what you're hoping for in your glass.
But, what we can see is just one part of the story. For a wine detective, maybe the most powerful tool you've got is your nose. The smells, the aromas, they tell you so much.
Come on, we've all been there, right? You pop a cork, you lean in for that first wonderful sniff, and you're expecting, berries and flowers, and instead you get hit with something else, something not so great. Well, there's a microbe for that.
Yeah, rotten apple, walnut, and glue. I don't think you'll find those on any fancy tasting menu. This very vivid description points us to our first major aromatic culprit. This one's responsible for one of the most common faults in wine.
It's a fault called volatile acidity, or just VA for short. And what's happening is that some specific bacteria are having a party in your wine, and they're eating the alcohol and converting it into acetic acid. And you probably know acetic acid. It's the main ingredient in vinegar. It's what gives vinegar that sharp, sour kick. And science actually gives us a really clear line here. Once that acetic acid concentration hits about 1 gram per liter, which doesn't sound like a lot, it's no longer just a tiny flaw. At that point, it's officially considered a major fault. It's a deal breaker.
So who's our bad guy? Meet Acidobacter. This is our vinegar villain. It usually hitches a ride into the winery right on the grape skins, and it absolutely loves oxygen. This thing is ruthlessly efficient too. Get this, it can turn up to 60% of a wine's alcohol into vinegar. The only thing that really keeps it in check is cutting off its air supply.
All right, let's bring in our next suspect. Now, these smells are a little more controversial. Some people, in some wines, actually don't mind a little bit of this funk. But when it gets out of control and takes over, it's a dead giveaway that there's a contaminant at work. And we're talking about Brett. That's the nickname the wine world has for contamination by Brettanomyces yeasts. These little microbes are famous, or maybe infamous, for producing these really funky, earthy, sometimes barnyardy kind of aromas.
And listen, Brett is a multi-talented criminal. It's a yeast, not a bacteria, and just like Acidobacter, it loves oxygen. But it doesn't stop at just making weird smells. Oh no, it can also make the wine cloudy and can even contribute to that volatile acidity we were just talking about. A real problem child.
So we've used our eyes, we've used our nose, and now it's time for the final test. The last piece of evidence, the verdict that's delivered by your palate. How do these faults actually taste?
Let's check the taste evidence. If you get this nasty, unpleasant bitterness, and maybe the wine's even got a brownish tint to it, well, the evidence points to lactic acid bacteria producing a nasty compound called acrolein. Or what if the wine just tastes flat? bland, weak, watery. That could be film yeasts or bacteria that have literally eaten the wine's natural, zesty tartaric acid.
Okay, so with all of these microbial criminals lurking around every corner, how is it that we ever get a good bottle of wine? Well, that's where the winemaker steps in. And they're not just an artist, they're also a guardian.
And really, that's the most important thing to take away from all of this. A clean, delicious, flawless glass of wine, that is not an accident, it's not luck. It is the end result of a constant, successful defense against these microbial invaders at every single stage of the game.
I mean, just take our pal Brett, for instance. The fight against it starts way out in the vineyard, by making sure only healthy grapes get picked. Then, during fermentation, it's about using the right yeasts and just the right amount of sulfur to keep Brett at bay. In the winery itself, barrels have to be obsessively cleaned and sterilized. And even then, right before bottling, there's filtration and final checks. It is literally a war on 4 fronts.
So that simple pleasure in your glass, it is anything but simple. It is the triumphant survivor of a tiny, invisible war. The next time you pour a glass of wine that's just perfect, take a second. Appreciate that what you're tasting isn't just the grape or the place it was grown. You're also tasting the victory.